Hello, and a big welcome to all of you out there who are seeing this part of my podcast. Today we have a very special guest from Denmark, and I know usually I speak in Danish with people from Denmark, but today we're speaking English so everybody can understand us. So welcome to you, Mia Lykke Nielsen.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here, and I have been waiting for this interview for a while, and I'm so happy you're here. So please tell us, what are you doing?
Well, I am a horse trainer and a horse behavior therapist, and I have developed my own training method. When I was really young, I moved to America, United States, where I got the chance to work at a big ranch with more than 360 something wild horses. And when I came there, I thought I was going to become a horse trainer. But after a week, because I've been riding my whole life since I was a child, but after a week, my mentor told me that I couldn't become a horse trainer because my body language was too much like this, like riding school student. So she could not offer me a job. We were three Danish girls getting a job in the States. And I couldn't get the job, but I could get a different job if I wanted to stay. And that job would be physical work. And I would have to go out on a piece of land, 1,000 acres piece of land. That's huge, really big, where she had her whole wild herd. All the mares and gelding and foals were living in this huge area. And I had to take a driver's license. And then I had to walk out there between 7 to 8 hours a day, walking up and down mountains. I couldn't drive in there. I could only drive to the area. And then I have to check and count every one of these horses every day.
Every day. Oh, wow.
And and I thought I was going to get the job for only 6 months, but I ended up staying there and loving it and staying for 3.5 years. And
Wow.
every morning she printed out a list for me with all the horses' name, their ages, and their colors. And then I had to go out there and X every one of them. And if I couldn't find one, then I had to go home and get her. And we all had to go out and look because these horses had a really high value. So they could be stung by a rattlesnake, a black widow, or fall down from a slippery mountain path, or a lot of things could happen to them. So I had to make sure every day that they had 2 eyes, four legs, and were not bleeding and were okay.
Wow.
So I walked with them, and
What breed was that?
it was Icelandics. And
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
so the woman that I worked for, her name is Elizabeth Haug, and she is originally Danish. But when she was really young, she went to Iceland and she rode across Iceland on an Icelandic mare. And it was with a wild horse roaming next to them. There were a lot of people on a big 12 ride. It took weeks. And after those weeks, she fell in love with this horse. She said it saved her life twice and she needed to get it. So it wasn't legal to import the Icelandic horse back then. So she did a lot of paperwork. Today, if you get an Icelandic horse from Iceland, it's not legal to bring it back to Iceland because they're so protective of their breed. So Elizabeth applied and applied and applied and did it again and again and again with the paperwork. And in the end, she got to import permission to import the Icelandic horse for breeding in Denmark. And she did that. And she started up a big range in Denmark and was the first breeder to bring them from Iceland to Denmark. But then there was a lot of competition. Many people began to import them. Everybody wanted Icelandics all of a sudden. So she got tired of the competition because she was the first. So she applied for a green card to go to America with this 5-gated family endurance horse. And she brought them over. And then 17 years later, I came.
Wow.
She
What
brought
a story.
She bought 40 horses over. I think it was 39 mares and one stallion. She was walking up the airplane. And yeah, 17 years later, she had 360 something roaming on 1,000 acres piece of land. And then she had a range where we lived on, where she had the horses that she was training, and a different area where all the stallions were living.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, so I worked with them and I watched them and I counted them, and that was my job every day. I took care of the stallions, and I was with the wild horses. And when I walked out there, I began often to sing because I realized if I went up a hill and they heard noises, then they would spook and move away from me. But if they could hear my voice from a far distance, then they would stay. So pretty soon I felt like they could recognize me, my sounds, and they would stop moving, and I became in a way a part of the herd. Yeah. And you think it's so difficult to see all these horses and recognize them apart from each other. And I thought in the beginning this would be really difficult, but I realized soon that that these horses, they were divided in little herds, little different herds, and if you can recognize just one, like a white horse that is shining out from the others, then you have the whole herd. Because if the white horse has 4 red horses in its herd and a black horse, then you know that it's these 4 red horses because it's with the white horse. Because these little underherds, they never change. They stay the same. Because horses do make connections and relations that are so strong, um, that if something spooked them, the wild herd, then in a heartbeat, all these little herds, there would be one herd running together. As soon as the danger was over, they would be out in separate little herds again.
Oh,
Yeah.
their own little family.
Own little family with their own little structure and their hierarchy. And in every little herd, everybody had like a job. It seemed like they worked together. And when the sun was shining and the foals were wanting to play and the other horses was lying down to sleep, some mare would take the babysitter function and take all the foals away, let them play, so the other horses could sleep, and one horse would be standing up looking over the sleeping horses. So it was really amazing to see the structure and how these horses are working together, and yeah, it was amazing.
Fantastic.
So
Yeah.
that was my life of some years until I finally began to be a part of the training of the horses. But based on the studies I made with the wild horses, I have developed my own training method called When Horses Choose. And it's all about using their own language. See, horses are really simple animals. They're all looking for love and harmony. And if we really open up our eyes, we can all learn to see what they're communicating and what their behavior really means. And so I step into the shoes of the lead horse, and the horses understand this immediately and feel safe. And if we people can achieve the place in the hierarchy as a safe place, as a friend place, a stronger friend that the horses can lean upon, then everything becomes easier. Then we will remove all the fighting and yeah, all the struggles. We need to communicate with horses like horses, because that's what they understand.
That's right.
Mm.
It's like our language. Maybe we don't understand each other. We have to adapt where we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you were there for a long time. What happened then?
I was there for 3.5 years. After a few years of me walking the 1,000 acres, counting the horses, sometimes there was lakes out there. Sometimes I would swim with the horses because there was no people. It was just horses as far as my eyes could go. And so after a few years, I would begin to ask Elizabeth, can I one day train horses? The other girls that came with me, they left after 6 months, so it was only me at one point. So I asked, can I please one day train horses? And I was only allowed to ride her 20-year-old Fakri gelding that I couldn't ruin, but I loved it. And every morning I watched her train the horses, and then I went to the 1,000 acres and I begged her, can I please one day train the horses? And she said, okay, I will go out and talk to you about it tomorrow. I will check the acres with you. And so we went out and we walked in the 1,000 acres, and all of a sudden she said, "Can you see that red mare up on that hill over there?" And I said, "Yes." And I looked at my paper and I said, "That is Rødhætte 93. And he said, "Yeah, well, I have a buyer for this horse. So now you get a test. We will put the big trailer out here. And the one day you get this horse into the trailer, then that can be your first horse to work with. But you have to do it in your own time." And then I remember I was so angry because when Elizabeth sold horses, she would bring clients out there and they would walk the 1,000 acres and see if they fell in love with a horse. And if they did so, and if it was the right horse for the owner, then we would be like 8 people going out, getting this little herd separated from the others and putting the herd into a big gooseneck trailer where there can be like 10 horses, load them all up, take them home, sort them out, and take the other ones back. Because you can't load one wild horse into a trailer. It can't be got done. You can't put a holder on it. They won't leave their herd. So she had 8 people, and I had to do it by myself, and I had to do it alone. So I was so mad, but I'm also very stubborn. So I kept on working at this for months, and I began to realize that these horses have a pattern. In this 1,000 acres piece of land, they walked it all over 24 hours. At nighttime, they would seek up in the mountains. When it was middle of the day, they would go down by the lakes where there was shadow by the trees. So I could actually kind of set my clock after knowing where they would be at a certain time of day, because they would be walking all around this area. So I began to think, when are the horses going to be close to the area where the trailer are? And I had to go out there really early in the morning, like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. to find them there one day. And then I remembered that one day that they were close to the trailer. You see, if I found one herd, I would know the other herds would be close by, because one herd wouldn't leave the other herd. They wouldn't go farther away that they could see each other, because they were all a part of the same big herd, even though they were divided in little groups. So the one day I found that they were close to the trailer, I remembered I cheated because I had brought some sticks and some rope so I could make like a little fencing to make the herd go my way, and I could push them into the trailer. One day after some months, it happened, and I got 5 horses in the trailer. I could close it and I could call Elizabeth and say, "I'm bringing them home." And I did.
Wow.
Yeah. And in this process, it really taught me a lot about using my body language, because I remember trying to get the little herd this way, but then as soon as I got them too far away from the other herd, they would just turn around and run back.
Yeah.
You can only get them that far. But one day it happened, and I brought them home, and I put them out on a field at home, and I sorted them all out and got the one horse apart and the other ones back into the trailer, took them back to the 1,000 acres, and then I had one horse. And I didn't sleep that night. I was so excited. And at home at the ranch we lived in, at all these little paddocks, then we could put up rope and drive the horses into a brown pen.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't be led by a holder yet. So I did that in the morning. I took up the rope, as I seen Elizabeth do, and put the horse into the round pen. And then I had it there. And then Elizabeth came, and she brought a chair, and she came and she sat down and she did like this with her arms. And she looked at me and she was going to see how I'm going to train. She was really, really loving and amazing, but she was really hard and strict also. So she was looking at me, and I began to work. And I had seen her work, and the way she did it, she would have a rope and she would kind of drive the horse around and around the round pen. But so I did that. I did what I'd seen her do. And I began to take a rope and take this horse around running. And then after a few minutes, Elizabeth stopped me and said, "Mia, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm doing what I've seen you do." And then she said, "Well, then you're really stupid." "Why am I stupid?" She said, "Well, because what do you want to achieve?" "Well, I want to become the safe place for this horse. I want to become its friend. I want to become a lead horse." "Well," she said, "now you have spent years watching the wild horses, And there are no better teacher than the wild horses. There are no horses with a more clean language than the wild horses. So if you want to achieve to become a lead horse, you have to do what the lead horse does. And she said, from now on in the training, everything you do with these horses, you have to explain to me what you're doing based on what you have seen the wild horses do. And that made me think, and it made me think for a while. She was really annoying, but it made me think. And because I really wanted to achieve this and I wanted to impress her. So I really thought and thought and thought. And then I realized, have I ever seen a wild horse chase another horse around and around? No. Have I ever seen one horse chase the other one around the area? No, I never saw that. So what I did see was that there was a herd and maybe a young horse was kind of making noise, were making, taking the focus, annoying the other horses a little bit, playing. Then the strong horse would pin its ears, take its head up forward, and then it would kind of chase it, but only like 4 steps, go this way, outside the herd. And then it would be out, and out there, the horse would kind of maybe run around like, I don't care, maybe eat some grass, maybe stand still. But at one point, the horse sent out would lower its head, take its ears back and begin to lick and chew. And when that happened, they all kind of opened up again and it could come back until next time. Then it would be sent out again. So that made a lot of sense to me. So I began to do that instead. I began to say, well, this is my area and you can go with me, or if not, you go over there. I will just send you over there and I will wait. So that was kind of the start of me developing my method. And when you work with wild horses, you have to do everything free because you can't walk up and put a holder on them. So you have to start creating that trust. And the place that I often got to touch the horses the first time is their hind.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're defensive, so they feel more safe giving you their hind than their front. So that way, if I do the first touch, I could go this close, and then the horse would wipe its tail or show me or kick, show me you're getting too close, then I would have to wait. Ask again, a little closer, and wait. And then one day I make that touch and move away, and the horse realized I didn't die. So then I can touch a little more, and then maybe it feels nice, and then I can climb. And in the end, I can touch them all over. And then we have a great trust. The last place I always got to touch the wild horses was the ears and inside the ears, because they protect the ears the most. They need their ears because they have balance nerves in them and they communicate, they keep up with dangers, they keep up with the herd. I realized that horses always have an ear pointed towards the lead horse or the strong horse, towards the herd, to see what's going on, even when they're sleeping. Because if a sound happens, then in a heartbeat, they have to see what are they doing. If the horses are running, I have to run. If the horses are, okay, it's nothing. The strong horse is showing I'm eating, then all the horses are eating. But they have to sense each other and they have to be alert and they have to use their ears. And their ears is a big part of their communication also.
Yeah.
And they're vulnerable too, because the bone that attaches the ears to the skull is like a match, that thin. So if we pull a horse's ears, like, you know, you hear in the traditional old stories that people control a horse by holding its ears, a lot of them would have broken this bone. So they're vulnerable. So they don't allow strangers to go up and touch their ears. So I would know that one day I could touch the ears and I could touch their head and their mouth. Then I would have achieved so much trust that they're not afraid of me physically. Then I can touch them all over. Then they're not going to kick anymore. Then they're okay.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great, but it's a lot of patience.
Yeah.
And I think many people today don't have this patience.
Yeah.
I think of you 4 years in the field before you start. That's yeah.
But I
It's
don't
great.
think that, I think I did that for all the other people. Nobody needs to do that, because based on those studies of the wild horses' behavior, I made a method, and this method everybody can learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have made, I'm in the process of writing a book about it, but I have made a long video, 2.5 hour long video explaining the whole method step by step, and also putting words on the horse's communication and movements and behavior. So this 2.5 long movie really gives a deep understanding of this method and gives everybody tools to how they can begin to work with it themselves. And when I put this movie out, I created like a private Facebook group for all the people buying this movie. And in this group, I go in and I do live streams every month so people can ask me questions if they begin working with this method and they get stuck somewhere. And what I realized, because I was so nervous putting this out, because are people going to be able to do this and with horses completely free? But what I realized is that people are. I have people from all over the world that has bought this movie. People from China, from Uzbekistan, from Turkey, from Denmark, from all America, Australia, all over the world. And they're all sharing videos in this group, and everybody are achieving amazing results. One of them has done this method with a cow, and she's riding in a cordeo, and it's following her around. And it's just, it's working. This method is working. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I have seen also that you are in other countries as well to teach this method. And I was thinking, I think you were in Spain or it was Portugal, uh,
Brazil.
Brazil. Oh, wow. Yeah, and I'm just thinking that these people who had horses for all their life, they must be shocked when you come and tell them do like this, and they see the result.
Yeah, there are many places. And in Brazil, it's very hard because they have such a proud horse culture. They
Yeah.
have had horses all their life. And then I kind of come from Denmark, that is a more rich country than their
Mm.
country. And then I criticize them. So in Brazil, I have a lot of resistance. People saying that I am there to I'm coming there from my rich country and judging them, but I'm not. But I am coming there to communicate about horses' needs and safety, because they have a culture where horses don't get out in the fields.
Mm.
They have millions of horses in Brazil locked up in confinement. That means that they are born inside a stall booth, a stall, and that they die in stalls. They only get out to do work 1 hour a day, and then they go back to the stalls. So never in their life they get to run and do a free buck, or stretch their head, or stretch their feet,
Oh,
or interact with other horses. And when I was there the first time, I just couldn't realize that. I was at a place with more than 1,000 horses, a big boarding place, and I was like, how come no horses are out? It's in the middle of the day. The sun is shining. And they said, what do you mean? Don't you have pastures? No, we don't have any pastures. This is how they do. And I began to look at these horses, and I realized that all these horses have their spine sticking up, like because they have no muscles next to it, because they can't maintain healthy muscles if they're not have access to move naturally. So even though they're ridden 1 hour a day, then their muscles will disappear. And if then they ride horses on spines with no muscles, and then they will get inflammations in their spine, and it's a really bad situation for their health and for their safety. So
yeah, and I mean, you don't ride a young horse either. They have 3, 4 years before they start working them.
yeah, and in these 3, 4 years, they stand in stalls, so they're not allowed to develop their own balance. Horses develop their balance by playing and moving and
Yeah,
running, and that's how they get strong tendons and strong bones and strong hooves. And if we only allow them to stand still, then they become like if they were made of glass.
yeah,
Yeah. So they have a lot of accidents, and they have a lot of jumping horses that all of a sudden break their legs, and they have a lot of this. And when I come, they're like, oh, but you're crazy, because if you let the horses out, then they will get kicked, or they will get bit by a snake, or we take care of them like this, we protect them. But for me, that has
Yeah.
seeing how horses interact in the wild, and how they communicate, and how they work together, and how connected they are, then it's just so heartbreaking to see horses living like that. Yeah, so heartbreaking. And I was at a place where the owner called me in Brazil, and he was like, I'm so excited you're coming here, because I'm riding bitless, and I'm having all these stallions, and I love horsemanship, and I'm doing all this great stuff. And then when I came to his place, I saw like 30 proud Lusitiano stallions, all in stalls. They had like a little window, so all I could see was that one eye looking out of these windows all over. And I was like, but don't they come out? No, they never came out. So when I took them out and I released them, they were like so aggressive and so expressive that they couldn't be in their own body. They would move with 110 miles an hour, and they would be aggressive and frustrated in the same time. But very, as soon as I got in there, and I showed them my love, and I hang out with them, then they all came down again. So, but it's really hard to see. It's really hard to see that this is the culture in some places. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So under similar.
Well,
Yeah. So a
did
week
you
ago. Yeah.
did you get any change there? Could you explain to them that they have to get out?
I did, and while I was there, the first time I got 4 horses moved out from confinement. So there's a few places in Brazil where they have horses out on pastures. Some of them within the Western riding, they have horses living outside. And so there are some places, but it's not easy to find, and it's usually not in the big cities. So, but I got some people convinced, and they moved their horses out of the confinement and took them out to fields where they're living now. And when I went back the second time, I got like a handful of more horses out of the confinement, out living on fields. So, but it's little rings. I would like the development to happen a lot faster.
Yeah, I understand, but you have started, and yeah, it spreads. You
Yeah,
know.
so I'm doing a lot more work, and I'm getting a lot of contacts with great veterinarians in Brazil, and we're going to be doing some more work together about explaining about how much more healthy the horses could be if they had access to move and use their body and have muscles and interact with other horses and have social behavior and all of this. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope for I really hope that I in my lifetime can be a part of making a change, because that's really important.
Yeah, I
One week
didn't.
ago, 1 week ago, I had a visitor that came to my farm here in Denmark from Korea. And she had been watching my videos about the confinement horses I worked with in Brazil. And she came and she said, can you come to Korea? Because we do the same thing. All the horses live inside stalls all the time. And
Oh,
they do that in many countries, I'm realizing. So,
I really didn't know that it was so bad.
no, many people don't.
It's
Yeah.
so natural for us in Scandinavia that we let them out always, at least
Yeah.
6, 8 hours a day, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think also here there is beginning to, there are some places with the competition horses on a high level where they don't get out very much.
Mm,
There are. And also the race horses in Denmark.
yeah.
Some places they never get out.
Mm,
So yeah, in Denmark we have a law that they have to get out 2 hours a day, and that's really what I'm also talking about in Brazil. That's really great. I wish it was 10, But as you say, most people in Scandinavia, we let our horses out, and we let them be in herds, and we let them interact. Yeah, and that's amazing.
Wow, what a great job, and what a big job for you. Brazil is big.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yeah.
But have you been thinking of maybe have some students and send them out?
Yeah, I am in the process of making an education, and I have already educated 2 instructors. I have one in Denmark and I have one in Brazil. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, you see, it's when you can do like that, it's certainly it's spread a lot more. Yeah.
Yes. So my plan is to come up with an education and educate when horses choose instructors in United States and all over the world. Yeah. We need people who can communicate with horses and help people get these great connections with the horses, because horses are all looking for harmony, peace, and love. And if we just do it in their language, then it becomes so much easier. Yeah.
That's right. Wow, that's a lot. And I understand that you have not so much time for a podcast, but at least I got you here. That is fantastic. And you have some other things as well. You were telling about a new thing you have.
Yeah. Well, first I want to tell about my summer. I'm going to be having my summer here in Denmark, where I will be doing some clinics for where everybody can come and join me. I will have one in June and one in August. And then in July, I have 2 weeks of children's camp. I do children camps. I have just been doing 2 weeks of children camps in Brazil. And I'm also doing it in Denmark. I've been doing it in Denmark for 15 years at least, where kids can come and live with me for a week and have their horse. If they don't have their own horse, they can have one of my horses. And then it's not like a riding camp like other places. This is a camp where you learn to train horses. So they're outside like 2 to 3 times a day, working from the ground, getting a connection, a relationship with their horse. And they all bring different horses. And they have different problems. Some of them don't feel safe, or some of them can't do this or can't do that. But after 1 week with me, they're all able to control their horses free. So after 1 week, I will have 10 kids in an arena, the same outdoor big arena, and I will have 10 kids running in between each other with their horses free. And every time the kids stop, or the horses stop, when the kids run backwards, the horses run backwards. And then they learn to ride the horses in only a cordeo. Because I do this with the kids because I know that horses are so big and strong that we can't hold them with physical equipment. I don't believe in it. We can use pain and hard equipment until a certain limit, but the horses will always be stronger and they will have these instincts. So if they get scared enough or something happens, they will break out. But if we achieve to become a true herd member and their safe place, which kids can also become lead horses, well, then they can control them in nothing at all. They can also achieve to have horses pay attention, listen to them, seek them. And then we are out of the muscle thing. Then we can get a much more safety. So then they all learn to ride bitless, saddleless, and with a cordeo. And after this riding camp ends, I usually bring them to the biggest horse event in Denmark called the Store Hestedag, the Great Horse Day. It's in Roskilde. And I bring my kids there from the camps every year, pick out some who wants. And then we go in there and we show the whole world that we can let horses free in a huge arena in front of many thousand people, and the kids can control their horses. And when they stop, the horses stop, and that they can ride them in a cordeo and do dressage and do jumping and do the same as everybody else with no equipment. Because I think it's so important to give the kids these tools. And in these riding camps, I have kids coming from all over the world. I have one coming from Brazil. I have one maybe 2 coming in from United States, and I have 1 from Switzerland. So kids are coming to learn this method, and I still have open spots. So come on and join me for this week. It's a big chance, and there's so much self-development in these weeks, because your kids, in order to achieve this leadership with the horse, they have to begin to believe in themselves. So they have to have this feeling of authority in their own body to be able to show their horses with love. And understand that setting boundaries for the horse is also loving. It's because many kids say, oh no, I don't want to be strict, I don't want to say stop. But if you do so, then you're loving, because you make your horse relax and lower its guard, and know that it can count on you, and then you can reach so high results. So I'm really excited about that.
Wow. I
That's
got goosebumps. It's just that is a perfect place to start with the kids, because then it will grow. Yeah.
It is, and I think it's so amazing, because I get so good kids with the best hearts that wanna learn this method instead of going out in a traditional riding school. And the thing is, then after they've been with me for a week, then they can't really go out to riding school, because
No.
then when they do that, then they come back to me and they say, Mia, we went to the riding school and we see all the horses are communicating. They're showing signs of pain. They're doing like this when we tighten the girth, or it's kicking, or it's doing this. So all of a sudden we have all these kids that are able to read horses and understand. Here, if the horse is screaming, or here, if the horse is happy, they can feel them, and they can see them, and they can read them. And I think that's a really good foundation if we're going to be working with horses, that we're able to communicate and read them.
Really, really.
So
And as you said, it's also building their own uh, body and mind and everything.
I have kids that have been with me for a week, and after they come home, then they change in school, because
Yeah.
they got a new belief in themselves. I have
Yes.
kids that have been bullied for years, and after a week with me, they come back and they set boundaries, and they know how strong they are, and nobody can touch them, because that's the process they have to go through. And also in my camps, um, some camps, it matters a lot what ages the kids are in, but not in my camps, because it's not so much about the kids, it's about the inner process that they're going through with their horse. And everybody's going to go through a process. And I usually say, in the middle of the week, everybody's crying. That's how it goes, because they're going through so much. And they get supportive of each other, because if this horse don't want to do this one thing, then why does it have resistance? And then they open up for this whole story. It has resistance because this horse once experienced this, so they're able to understand the behind reason, and help the horse get through it. And when they get through it, then it's so moving that they really get attached, and it's beautiful for everybody to watch these processes with different horses, and it opened up their eyes, and they come home new, changed people, I think. And that's why they want to come with me to Roskilde and show the world what they can do, because it's also little rings in the water. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And also show other people that it's not just jumping and dressage. You can do a lot of things with a horse and feel good about it.
Exactly. And it is since I became a horse trainer all those years ago at Elizabeth's, we rode with rope holders. See, so I understood already back then that it was possible to ride without a bit. And I have done that ever since. And I have followed all the studies that has been made by different scientists all over the world, that has made studies about the bit and how the bit hurts the horses. And in my work as a horse trainer, I get horses in training when they have problems, when they don't want to jump anymore, when they rear up, or when they run off, or when they have all these different behavioral issues. And a lot of them, all the different behavioral issues, I realize it comes from pain. And a lot of times I see horses having head pain. They do head shaking, or they
Yeah.
do like this when I touch their head. And many of the horses I've had in training, I have sent to x-rays of their head. And every time I see that they have severe damage in their jaw, tongue bone, teeth, skull, there are so many horses that we don't realize are having pain every day in their mouth. And a lot of big studies are proving it. Also, many people have put it out there, but it's not enough for us to make a change. And that's really the hard thing, because I know it's possible. I see my camp kids do it year after year. I see all the clinics I'm doing. I'm experienced people that ride bitless, try it at my clinics and say, my horse is listening even better. I can
Mm.
easily jump. I
Mm.
can easily do these dressage movements. Everything is possible. It's not the bit that does it, but the bit is what makes us feel safe.
Mm.
But
That's right.
it's a false safety,
Mm.
because if we remove the pain that it's causing from the horse will lower its head and it will become much more safe, right?
Of course, it's if you think about yourself, if you have a pain, you focus on the pain. You wouldn't listen to anything else. So if you remove the pain,
Yeah,
it's
the
more
horse
much
have a
more open.
chance. The
Yeah.
horse have a chance to enjoy what we're doing too,
Mm.
you know? So I always say happy horses are safe horses. I teach people that they're not allowed, both on my camps and at my clinics, and every time I teach, that you're not allowed to ride an tense horse. So you have to get the trust level to where the horse will lower its head, free and loose. And then you can ride. And as soon as the head goes up, as soon as you feel tension, you have to stop your horse, back it up. You have to make it immediately lose tension, be relaxed, because a tense horse is a dangerous horse. It's a horse in defense. And I think the only way we can get really, truly happy and happy horses and horses with no tension is if we remove pain. We have to make sure that that saddle is fitting correct, that it's not hurting its shoulder or hurting its back. And we have to remove the bit device, because it does hurt. And then people say, well, I ride with really soft hands. I ride really good. And that's really good. But the second, you see, we people, we also have instincts like monkeys, you know. So if I spook you or somebody gets spooked, it doesn't matter if we are sitting on a horse or not. Our hands will go like this. Whoa! You know, this happens. And if I'm out riding and something big shows up over here, my hands will go like this. And my horse's vision is going like this. It can't see the hands behind its head. So it's riding, and all of a sudden it will get full, you know, and it's made of iron. So how many times should we pull before we are actually creating a damage? It happens. And even if we are riding with soft hands, then it's still a little hitting all the time with the iron. And it will create inflammations inside the mouth, and inflammations over time. Maybe if we take an x-ray today, there's no damage, but in 2 years of this inflammation ongoing, then we will see the damage. So I do believe that the bit is causing damage. I was Googling, where did we see the first bit in Denmark? And I found that it was found in the last century in a Viking's grave. A Viking was buried with his horse, and inside the grave there was a bit device. So it makes me think we are all doing this to our horses because of what some stupid Viking did in the last century. And there has been so many smart people, professors. You can take Alexander Nusharov. He's a professor living in Russia who's done so many studies on x-rays. You can take Sabine from Canada. There's so many people that has made great studies and huge studies that shows that it doesn't hurt our horses with a bit once in a while, but almost every horse been ridden over a long time with a bit gets damaged, get injuries, gets pain. So we don't need to listen to this old Viking anymore. We can change our habit. We are intelligent people. We can do different. Yeah. So I think it's about time.
Yeah. And as somebody said that if the horses were like a dog and they would scream when they have pain, then we maybe wake up. Yeah, it's terrible. They don't, they can't scream.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I'm taking some videos when I see horses showing pain, and I'm gonna make some posts about this is how it looks when horses scream, because they show it so much.
Yeah,
People don't see it because we're not used to listening.
that's
I
right.
remember, I remember in Brazil, in one of these confinement stalls, there was this white horse. It was so frustrating. It was like it was burning if it's in its feet, and it only had like an open window, and you were seeing it standing like this all day long, like this
Oh,
all day.
yeah.
And then people outside, they began to stand in front of it and do the same. And they said, "Look, the horse is dancing with me." So people are a lot misseeing, you know. We're misunderstanding our horses. People are not schooled to see behavior and understand what the horses are communicating. So that's what I am trying with my videos also, to spread knowledge about that horses do communicate and they're able to choose and to communicate and say yes and no.
Mm.
My method I have developed by horses' own behavior and their ability to choose. That everything I do is a question, and I do it free first. I never use equipment before I've done it free. That means if I'm going to ride a horse, I'm going to sit on it completely free first. So that would be a question. I will lie on its back and say, "Do you mind? Can I?" And if the horse says no, it will just go away. So there's no chance that I'm going to be sitting on this horse until it stands still and allows me. So that means yes. You see, so everything I do becomes a question first. And I really feel like if we can get the horses in here to cooperate and take these decisions and be a part of it, instead of forcing their head down and creating traumas, then we get happy, safe horses. I never fell off a horse. A horse will never try to get me off if it has chosen that I could be there in the first place.
No.
So I
But
started with the wild Icelandics, but a decade later, I really wanted to test my method, and I missed the wild horses. So then I went back to the States and I did a project with wild Mustangs.
yeah.
So now I have to test this method with wild Mustangs and see how they react. And I did a project where I got 5 new and captured wild horses. They were going to be sold in an auction, and instead of getting to people's home, I made like a donation of 30 days work that people could get them with me in a trailer. Everybody that bought a horse that day on an auction could get them with me in a trailer to a rescue facility. And then I would work with them 30 days and they could come and pick up a tame horse, a ridden horse, instead of getting a wild horse. And everybody was laughing and saying, "She's crazy, it can't be done, 30 days. But I brought a filmmaker and I filmed the whole process. And yeah, these horses, they became great. They became so great. It was a big process, but it was beautiful. Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah. But I can imagine also it's a very different approach. And if you have a horse like we always had, somebody would say, "Yeah, but if I'm going to a competition and the horse says no, what can I do then?"
Then you have to find the reason why is your horse saying no. Because a horse is always looking for love and harmony, and they will do everything for us. So if you have your horse have trust and it will follow you here and it will listen to you here, but it won't do this, then this is the way your horse is telling you something is wrong. Then either it's not ready to be in the competition frame, or it's hurting it when it's doing this. Or so if you have a sweet cooperative horse that will do all this with you but won't do this, then something is wrong. Then it's physically not capable of doing that. Then something is physically wrong that limits it to do this exercise, or it has traumas from the past in this exercise. You have to find the reason behind so you can get a solution, remove it, and make your horse be happy in this condition. There is nothing you cannot do with your horse with its ears forward, make it happy, smile the whole way through it. But you have to help it get rid of old traumas and physical pain. A lot of horses have pain without people knowing it. And I think if I went out to a riding school and looked at the horses there with a veterinarian and we took x-rays of their heads, we would realize that all of them had pain.
Mm.
And I think that's really sad. Yeah.
And that is maybe why many people, they reject it, because if you found out that your horse had pain all your life, then it's not feeling very good for you.
No, that's hurtful.
Mm.
That is hurtful. That's how you see the one girl that I educated, a trainer in Brazil. She was the first girl I met there, and her 3 horses, they were standing in confinement. And she had no idea what she did was wrong.
No.
But she was also my translator, so she had to work with me for a month in Brazil. So she and I thought I was going to go to Brazil to show them my method. But when I was there, all I did was talking about confinement horses. So I did a huge lecture about telling people about inside the hoofs, they have the hornilla. That's the frog. That's the blood pump that they have to move in order to make their blood circulate. They have to move in order to get strong tendons, bones. They have to move to get their digesting going. They have to maintain muscles, otherwise they break, you know. So I had to say this over and over again, and about their mental health. They have to have other horses. They have to be able to communicate like a horse. They have to be able to live out their instincts, all of this. And she was saying it over and over again. And in the end, she was like crying and saying, I can't have my horses this place. I have to move them today and take responsibility, because I realized how bad I've been. But I thought I was the best, because she listens to the authorities. She listened to the top trainers that says, in these places in Brazil, it is like really, really fine. Some of the places are really like luxurious. There is like a infrared light, and there is like all this for the horses, and like great jumping arenas and indoor arenas and great facilities. There's just no fields. And a part of their boarding goes to that a vet that's living on the facility check these horses every week, telling the owners that your horses are so happy, they're top notch, they're so good looking and in great condition. So, but they're paid by the boarding place. So it's all very corrupt, right? And only a few veterinarians there now dare to talk about it.
Wow, what a big mission.
Yeah. So Marina lived up to to like, okay, what I've done was wrong, and she changed it. But I went to riding school when I was young, because I was in love with the animal horse. And I didn't really love it. And I changed riding schools a lot, because I felt like it was a lot of pulling and using a whip. And it was not about getting the relationship, which was what I was looking for even as a child. But I did it. So I used a bit. And I did use a bit because a teacher told me to. So I can also blame myself. And we can, all of us, we can just blame ourselves, but it will never help anything. So any blame will never help. We can just begin to see, hey, there's a different way. I know different now. I can do different for the future, you know. Blame is never usable. And our horses will be so happy if we change our way tomorrow and the rest of their life, right?
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
what we can do. Blame doesn't do anything, but we can do different. And yeah.
That is so right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't ever want to blame anyone, and I just back up about any trainer in this world that work with like gentle methods. That's what it's all about. We have to get away from the pain and fear, and get into that these are intelligent animals. We can communicate with them. They have a language and they have a behavior, and we are so intelligent. We can learn to understand them and truly communicate with them. So we need no force. we can do different.
Mm. That's
Mm.
right. That's right. Wow. Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
But you also have started something totally new.
Yeah. I just opened up my web shop. I have, as I said, worked bitless for my whole life. As a trainer, and I have used the same bitless bridle from a company called Riders Company. They had a bridle that is, I always found it the best bridle of them all. So I've used that bridle for 20 years, but through all these 20 years, there was some things bothering me about it. It would kind of have a risk of going into the horse's eyes, and there were some changes I would do. So a year ago, I went to the director of this fabric and I said, we need to talk because I want to make my own design of a bridle, and you're going to make it because I love your bridle and I love the quality, but I want it different. So the bridle I have made is made out of vegan leather. So no more leather polish. We don't have to polish it. You can just wash it. It's vegan because I'm also vegan. So I need it to be vegan. And it's really great. And there is like a different jaw piece, so that makes it automatically move away from the horse's head. It is economically because it has memory foam that pressure releases every place that can be a pressure on this bridle. So that means if you get spooked and you pull, or you are in a situation where your horse will not listen to you and you have to speak with big letters, something happens, then you can never do a harm to your horse because there's a thick layer of memory foam. So I have tried to wear it and have somebody pull the reins, and it doesn't really hurt. It just gives me a communication. So this memory foam really makes sure that you cannot harm your horse with it, because I know that there has been some bitless bridles that also have made harm on horses because they weren't designed the right way, or they were too hard material or whatever. So I have made this the best quality with memory foam everywhere in the whole neck piece, everywhere where there can be a pressure. There's a thick layer of memory foam. And I started with the vegan leather one, and now I've made one in a braided cord as well. It's beautiful with the same amount of memory foam everywhere to pressure release, because I always thought we have to be able to control our horse in just a braided cord. So now I have a braided, bitless vegan bridle and one made of vegan leather. And it's on my new website, on my web shop, on my website. And I'm very excited about putting this out in the world. And the people that already got it, they love it. And they're saying that their horse is completely moving in the dressage, just like if it had a bit on. There's no difference at all. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And you are only selling these bridles, or do you have anything else? And
I am selling these bridles, and then I'm selling some my t-shirts and some other stuff. And I'm of course also selling Codeos, and soon I will be selling bareback pads also.
okay.
Mhm.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. And yeah, time is running. And thank you so much for coming today. It was really a pleasure and really exciting to hear about. And I hope I will see you again. And
Yeah,
uh,
me too.
and thank you to all of you out there. Where can the people find you? I forgot to ask about that.
Well, When Horses Choose is When Horses Choose on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and my website, whenhorseschoose.dk or .com. Yeah, or you can,
Easy, easy
yeah,
to remember.
When Horses Choose,
Yes,
because horses can choose. Yeah.
that's right. Thank you so much for showing up today. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of you out there who have been listening. And please subscribe, because this helped me to get new person here every week. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.